When it comes to any game, there's always a guarantee someone will adapt it into horror, one example being Tf2. For as long as the game has had a fandom, people have taken the wacky characters of Tf2 and used them in many forms of horror, from simple machinimas to full-on short films. But today, I want to talk about the various horror games that the Tf2 community have made, one of my favorites being Capture the Intelligence. For those of you unfamiliar with the game, I'll give a quick recap. In Capture the Intelligence, you play as a spy who enters a capture the flag server that is seemingly empty. That is, until he encounters the other mercenaries who have been twisted into unrecognizable monsters. Just the typical taking something innocent and making it scary trope. One thing I find clever is the use of the spy as the protagonist, because if you know anything about TF2, you'll know that the spy doesn't usually attack head-on, and usually has to rely on stealth, which is exactly what we see in Capture the Intelligence. And it's quite fitting that the engineer acts as the final boss fight, because many people see the spy and engineer as polar opposites. But that got me thinking, which TF2 character would make the best horror protagonist? And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. So to better explain this, I'll be ranking the Tf2 mercs based on their in-game strengths and weaknesses, and seeing how they could apply to a horror game situation. Because the reason most horror games are scary is because of the resources, or rather lack thereof, are at the player's disposal, such as limited ammo or only having certain weapons. I'll start off with the lowest on the list and work up to the top. Do keep in mind that this is all my opinion, and if you have any disagreements, be sure to share your opinion in the comments. And just because I rank certain characters lower, that doesn't mean I think there isn't potential for them to be a horror game protagonist. And if you are planning on making a TF2 horror game or series, there's nothing wrong with choosing a character I ranked lower on the list. With that out of the way, let's jump right in. The first character is Heavy. The reason you put him at the bottom of the list is because in most media portraying Heavy, he's always seen as a super strong and almost unstoppable force at times. The only way I could see him working well in a horror game is if you use the fact that he moves slow and is quite an easy target due to his size, but other than that, I don't see him working well as a horror game protagonist. Next up on the list is Demoman. I don't have any particular reason why I put Demoman here. I just thought based on his destructive behavior, he would be far too overpowered, unless he only had a melee weapon at his disposal. Next, we have Soldier. When it comes to Soldier, I think he would make a good default character, since the Soldier has been used in quite a lot of TF2 horror media. Next, and by the way we're moving on to characters I think would work well as protagonists, we have Pyro. I often think of Pyro as a fast, short-range version of Heavy, and I could definitely see some interesting gameplay mechanics. Imagine a game where you play as Pyro wandering around a dark, quiet map, the only source of light coming from your flamethrower, which becomes a problem because you have limited fuel. There are also various enemies attempting to ambush you, meaning you have to balance the flamethrower as a light source and self-defense as you try to look for an escape route. All in all, I think Pyro would be a great horror game protagonist. Now, let's move on. Next up, we have everyone's favorite German man, Medic. Medic would work well because all the other mercenaries rely on Medic, so making him the main focus of a horror game would make sense. There's also the entire fact his weapons, to put it lightly, aren't as lethal as the other mercenaries' weapons. Next we have Sniper. Sniper being a more stationary class, and the fact so many people hate them for some reason, they are obviously one of the most targeted classes in the game, and having at least 11 hours of playtime as Sniper, I can confirm that. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone used him as a protagonist. Now, moving on to the third, we have Engineer. From what I can tell from playing as Engineer on 2Fort in my free time, it involves a lot of staying in one place and maintaining your machines. So I guess it could work well in some kind of FNAF-styled game. You could have the roles of capture the intelligence reversed, where the spy is the main villain. Speaking of which, next up we have the Frenchman everyone loves to hate, Spy. Like I said earlier, playing as Spy requires a stealth, which would make some great gameplay mechanics. And finally, we have our last one, Scout. In a similar sense to Spy, Scout is also a very vulnerable character, due to him having less health than other mercenaries, and a lot of his gameplay revolves around him running around really fast. It would make sense to use him as a protagonist. And with that, we come to the end of the list. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Apologies if I stuttered or something. I have trouble, like, recording myself reading a script, and yeah. Also, the reason I haven't been uploading as much is because I've been working a bit on a new Tf2 machinima, and obviously with like school and other stuff getting in the way, it's been a bit difficult to do that. So I just wanted to upload this because I want to at least have a somewhat regular upload schedule. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.